Okay guys, here we go. We have for our test today a 2022 Porsche Macan GTS. As you know, they no longer make a turbo, so essentially the GTS has become the turbo variant. I really love the new front end of the vehicle. It looks just a lot more aggressive, very beautiful. And let's take a little side look here. Looks splendid. Now let me show you the interior, because this spec is fire, guys. Look at that white interior. Look at the stitching there. And I love those red seat belts. They are spectacular. Rear of the car, let's just show you real quick. Good size. Could be a little bigger, but you know what? It does well. We got a baby seat back there for testing as well. So let's go for a ride and see how we do. Hello, cupcakes, and welcome to today's fun drive. We are, as I said, in a 2022 Macan GTS. This car has roughly 454 horsepower. I think somewhere around 400 pound-feet of torque. You guys can check it. You know most of the specs, but we do love this interior. We do love the red seat belt. And for those of you who may have forgotten, the turbo models in the Macan series no longer exist. The GTS is the top form now. So we are in this car. We're going to give you a little bit of our review and what we think, and let's go for our journey. So let's turn on the sport exhaust. This car is very well equipped. So let's just talk about some facts about the vehicle. So it has, excuse me one second here, guys. So this car with the way it was spec'd comes out to about $110,000. So it's quite up there. I think you can spec it a little bit lower, but as with most Porsches, the problem is you want to get all the goodies, and that's going to be kind of like the temptation of getting any Macan series, even Macan S or Macan T. This car had a $10,000 markup, so much props to Porsche Santa Clarita and Dean for doing an amazing job. We have heard the markups on this car have gone a little higher, so they did a phenomenal job. So if you're looking for a Porsche in Southern California, in the LA area, hit up Dean from Porsche Santa Clarita. He will do his best to take care of you. He will not bullshit. He'll keep things very honest, and that's something that we really appreciate in today's day and age of insanity, where people are just trying to, nickel and dime you for all the wrong reasons. Zena's not like that. He's a great guy, and I highly recommend him for anyone who's looking to get a Porsche and potentially a Range Rover, because he also does represent that brand as well. Okay, let's talk about some things I do not like in this car. First thing is, I don't like these weird vents that they have right in, ahead of the gear lever. The problem is that they're so low that you can't really coordinate to hit, like your chest area and stuff as good as you would like. That's the first problem. The second thing I'm not too much of a fan of, I wish it was just done a little bit better, is the trunk isn't as big as I would like it to be. Like, it's a good size, but my F80 M3 fits probably more things in the trunk of the Macan. Now, the Macan, the advantage is you get the height, but lengthwise, it's a little small. So, because when we, for example, if you're a family, you got kids and strollers, right? These are big things that I never gave a shit about these things, but they are important now. If you have like an up a baby stroller like we do, it barely fits lengthwise in the car, and you can't put it up. Because when we tried it with our model, the trunk would not fully close. So those are just some things that I don't like. The other thing that I have a criticism for is, initially when I drove the car, for what I want, the horsepower was a little low. Now, I'm coming from typically quicker cars like F80 M3s, Taycan turbos, but having driven a GLE 53 non-coupe. That car felt a little bit more oomphy, even though it's a much bigger car. But once you get used to this car, you actually see how quick and nimble it is, which is something awesome for a car this size. Do I think Porsche could have gave it, honestly, like an extra 20 or 50 horsepower? They should have. You know, this car should be having around 470 brake horsepower. Now, that doesn't mean, you know, you don't have the ability to go and get it tuned from someone like M Engineering or whoever your tuning shop is, but make sure you get a legitimate tune and you could boost it up. Is it necessary? No. But would it be cool? Yes. But deep down, I do wish this car just had a little bit oomph. Just a little bit more. Like, otherwise, everything is perfect. I also wonder if maybe the car feels a little bit slower because it is on all-season tires. So when they shipped this car from Germany, it was shipped at a time when in Europe you have to have winter tires on. Especially in Germany, you have to have winter tires on in the winter months. Unlike in California, you can ride on summer tires all year round. So I wonder if because of that, it does slow down the performance. Because, interestingly, like, if you see an Audi RS6 on all-season or winter tires, it loses about like a second or more, for example, in its performance metrics, which that also affects your day-to-day driving and how the car accelerates and so on and so on. But coming back to this car, has a 2.9 liter V6. Now, if they could have gone to a 3.2 liter, if that would have helped, that would have been awesome. But overall, phenomenal car. I think if you're in the Market for something that isn't so big, like a huge SUV, you know, this does a great job with that. The engine is, you know, in the beginning I was a little, let's say, I was a little, you know, critical of it not having so much noise, but then I thought about who is the market for this car for, right? Because, like, if someone has like a Porsche GT car, right, if they want the noise, they go and sit in that car. This car is for everyday use. It has to be practical, and yet it has to be a Porsche, so it might not be super loud. And you know what, when you understand that this is a car made for most likely people who want to have the space, they want to drive a lot, it might be a family car. I think women are definitely a significant market for this vehicle, and also, you know, men who don't want to feel like they're castrated by buying a minivan. This is the car for them, and because of that, you know, it's not going to sound like a V8. Now, had this car had a V8, I think it would have been balls to the wall awesome. It would have brought a different sense of character to this vehicle. It would have just kind of transformed some of the feel and the dynamics. I think it would have been really cool to have seen this car really have a V8, or at least if the V6 could have been a little bit bigger to give it a different sound. I think sound is very important in cars. I think when I see electric cars and how fast they all are, that's all they got. But in terms of feel, in terms of sensation, they're all lacking those things, and sound is really important, you know, to see how every different engine that is made has a different soul and character to it. It's something very unique and beautiful, and that's been kind of taken away from cars, unfortunately. If you've seen some of our other reviews, I always allude back to the Fiat 500 Abarth in manual, because for such a small little engine and such a small little car, the thing was so lively. You had a blast driving it wherever you went. So this car is quiet, which on the one side is very, very good, because if you're hauling kids, you're trying to drive through the streets of crazy Los Angeles, the purge as we call it, you know, if you're driving a lot, maybe having a loud car might be a little annoying, you know, because once again, I think comfort is taking more of a priority from the Porsche mindset in this vehicle, even though it is a GTS, than is overall sensation. Now, moving away from the engine, the steering is one of the best steerings I have felt in any car. Doesn't matter if it's a sports car, super sedan, SUV, of course, but it is phenomenal. I love the steering of this car. One thing Porsche does really well with all their vehicles is steering. Every Porsche feels like a Porsche, and I think that is something awesome. This car handles very well. I mean, this car, there we go, now it livens up, you see? This car really does handle very well. It is actually a blast to drive to have something kind of like this big, this elevated, but have it handle as good as any, you know, super sedan on the road and potentially on track. I mean, you are defying the laws of physics and logic here to have a car that is of this size to handle this well. It makes the driving experience, I would go to sensation, because it handles so well, it makes the driving experience that much more enjoyable. It actually makes it safer too, but you just have a blast where you're like, dude, I'm in a big car, I'm handling as good as like an M3 or like a, you know, like a C63, for example. But I have to worry about my, you know, fender breaking off because there's potholes. So you get this added benefit of having a car that is elevated, because you're getting all the pros of a super sedan without all the cons of a super sedan, which is really, you know, your limited ride height, and you know how you can be driving in LA and crash into a pothole, not crash, but because our taxes don't go anywhere, all of a sudden, you know, you hit a pothole and boom, there goes your suspension, there goes like a, you know, your bumper, your tire, your rim, and the expenses just add on and the state will never reimburse you. So the handling here is phenomenal. The braking is magnificent, and the PDK, I'm so happy to have in this car, because in the Cayennes, I am not a fan of the automatic gearbox. I believe it is a ZF that is in those cars, but I've never liked it. I feel like it takes away from the driving experience. The PDK in this car is bang on, awesome. It makes it more fun, and for someone like me, I do enjoy driving the car in the manual mode with the paddles. I think it adds a little bit more flavor to it. Now, if there's like a lot of traffic, I'll probably put it in normal or sport and just keep it in auto only, because it just makes it easier to drive. But when the freeway's going, or you're on a canyon, you know, or you're on a good boulevard and you're just wanting to drive, especially for like those beautiful canyon drives, beautiful long freeway drives, I enjoy the paddles because it brings a lot more driver involvement back into the car. It makes it more sensational. You feel the gear shifts, they're so crisp, they're so precise. They did a great job with that. The seats are magnificent. I love these seats. They got very good back support. The side bolsters can go down a little bit. You know, some people like them, some people don't, because they can get a little annoying. I think if they had less side bolster, like, yes, you can adjust them, and right now they're all the way down. I think if they're just down a little bit more, it would make just the overall everyday driving day experience a little bit more user-friendly and more enjoyable. But I'm a pretty fit dude, so it doesn't really bother me as much, but it can affect you if you're a little bit older, in the older age range of life. But overall, the seats are great, very comfortable. They don't hurt my back. That's an issue I've always had with Tesla cars, is I feel like they've been made for very lazy people, and it feels like you're like in a lazy boy chair, which is not what I want in a car, because I want to feel alert and attentive. Here, listen to that. Boom. I hope you can hear it. So the seats just bang on. They keep you in position. The driving position is spectacular. Steering wheel is exactly where it needs to be. I see all my ergonomics. One downside is the rear view mirror is quite small. So what I mean by that is when I look out that rear window, unfortunately, it's not a very big window. So it's like small relative to the car. So you have a small mirror, you have a small vantage point from your rear view mirror, because unfortunately that rear window is a little small for a car this big. Now remember, the Macan from Porsche's eyes isn't really their SUV. It is I mean, in my eyes, it's a baby SUV, but they like to refer to it as their crossover. And crossover it is, because it does a great job of just, you feel the sensations in the road. It doesn't bother you, but you can feel where the car is going. You can feel what the tires are doing. The feedback from the front wheels to the steering wheel is phenomenal. I love this car because also in terms of just parking, it is so much easier to park this car than like a giant SUV and all of these big ass cars that they're making. It makes it that much more pleasant to have. It makes it that much more pleasant to use. For those of you who have kids, I think this is a great car. Just keep in mind that when, you know, it can't, so if you put your back seat, if you put your, if you put your baby seat behind the passenger seat, okay, you don't have a, like, compared to, let's say, a full-size sedan, I think there's a little bit less room, but it's not anything to take points away from, because unfortunately car seats for baby seats are just annoying as fuck, and they do take up space. But getting the kid in and out of the car is super easy. You can fit, you know, the bigger strollers or the higher end models like the Yeppa babies in the car. You do get the vertical space, which is nice, so you can go do your grocery shopping trips and whatnot with the stroller in the back. I do like the position and the height of the vehicle because it's easy to take the kid in and out of, relative to some other cars that, you know, we've tested. It's a little bit harder to get the kid out because sometimes the car is so much lower, so you're kind of like, you know, bending down a lot to pick up, you know, your heavy child out of their car seat, so that's not always enjoyable. Let's see what else here. This car does have the sport exhaust. I say get it. You get, you know, some fun pops and crackles. You know, it's good. It makes the engine just a little bit more lively enough to make you enjoy it, you know. I do enjoy the panorama sunroof. I also enjoy the fact that it has a cover, which is something I think is phenomenal, because who wants to have their head feel like it's gonna fry? So we're about to hit some traffic here, and we're trying to decide, are we gonna stay in my setting? So my setting is, I have the individual setting of the car set up. I have the motor and transmission on Sport Plus. I have the suspension on Comfort, and the ride height, I have it on a lower setting just to make the car a little bit more nimble for me. You know, we're gonna go to normal mode. I think that'll be pleasant enough. Oh, look at this. Look at this asshole. You had all that room and he decided to cut me off here. Stupid people of Los Angeles, right? Anyways, we can be a little bit of a revengeful driver. So here we go. We're gonna see if we can cut them off in return, because when the solid white line comes, little cupcakes, realize you're not allowed to turn in front of people at that point, especially when you had 90 yards of fucking turnage to come in. So back to the car. The Apple CarPlay is magnificent. It works way better than the Taycan, because the moment you turn on the car, it hooks up. The Taycan, for whatever reason, the CarPlay is not sexy. Like, it takes a while to load. Sometimes it doesn't load. So anyhow, I'm really happy with the updated PCM system in the vehicle. On a full tank of gas, for those of you who are curious, you can get close to 400 miles of range. And guess what? If you do drive in Sport Plus, from what we've seen, there is no deficiency in range. So it's not like driving a Taycan or electric car. When you put it in the maximum setting, all of a sudden half of your range goes away. Nope, not that problem with a gas-powered car. Here we go, guys. Boom, love it. You know what? I take back everything I said about the car. The V6 is actually very, very, very fast. And I didn't even go pedal to the metal. Like, that was freaking awesome. Look at this idiot. Doesn't know which lane he's going into. No blinker. Welcome to LA. Land of jabronis, people. Land of cupcakes and jabronis. Suspension ride, for the most part, very, very comfortable. It has one kind of Porsche trademark, and I'll tell you that, which is on rebound. So when the car compresses, it's good. On rebound, when the car comes up, it can have a slight tendency to be a little rough, where the chassis feels like it just goes a little bit side to side. Other Porsche cars are notorious for this, and it's not Porsche's fault. It's America's fault for having such shitty roads. Because in Germany and Europe, roads are much better. So that's just one thing to be aware of. Now, it's not Range Rover smooth, but it is still very smooth. And I also asked the question, for $120,000, you know, would you get a Range Rover? Well, it depends. You see, even though they're not direct competitors, I have to include them for the price because, you know, do you get this car or do you get a Range Rover? Now, the last time we checked, I think a Range Rover V8 will probably, I think, come out to about 140 or 150 depending on how you spec it. So you're close to there. I think the one thing the Range Rover definitely surpasses is going to just be a much more comfortable car. It won't be as fast as this. The V6 will definitely be slower, but who cares because you have a beautiful, comfortable car. The V8 will probably be slower than the GTS, but once again, you'll have a comfortable car, a lot more space, a lot more trunk space. So if someone asked me, would you get this over a Rover? I think it just depends what you're looking for. If you're looking for, like, you know, the ultimate SUV, here we're going to use the boost button here. Boom, drive response boost. Get it for 20 seconds. Awesome, I love it. Makes that experience a lot more fun. So back to the car thing, to the SUV question. I think if you're in the market for a car that handles like an M3, but is almost as comfortable as a Range Rover, and you don't care about having a Range Rover because also you may not want to spend 140 or 150 G's on the V8 model. The V6 is about 120 out the door, I believe, maybe 130. And you want something that's going to be more nimble, like feels race car-esque, but is also very comfortable. My argument then would be to get the Macan GTS. It is a phenomenal car in that respect. It's going to be a lot easier to park, you know, than the Range Rover because of the size, right? That nimbleness is something that a lot of people take for granted. You know, driving through the crazy streets of Los Angeles in California, I think it's perfect in that sense. If you want more comfort and more space, then you know what, you go for the Range Rover. But I think where this car really fits well is if you need to have a car that feels big but is not big and handles like the M3s and is almost as fast. Now I know like a brand new G80 M3 compact all-wheel drive will blow this thing off the line, but I'm just saying something that feels just as quick, because this car, I believe, we didn't get to retest it, but when we checked our drag, it did a 0 to 60 3.5 seconds. I mean, how much more quicker you want to go? Where it's quick, nimble, easy to drive, has a good size, has good peripheral vision. You can park it in and out of spaces easy. You can park it on the street easy. You have more accessibility, but you don't want to get a super sedan, dude, get this car. Just being very honest, get this car. If you want the space, then yeah, you're gonna have to level up and go pay more money and get a bigger car. But this just does the job. Like if there's a one, you know, there's very few cars that kind of do that one hat trick for all types of events. This does it, especially for those of you living in California, where we have such terrible roads and God knows where our money goes. It's going to fit into that spot very well. Now, for those of you who live in snowy states, before we end this is all I got to say, and please take my advice on this. If you live in a state like Colorado or New York or Montana, right, where you do get snow and freezing weather, my recommendation is this: buy a set of winter tires for this car. When winter comes, put on the winter tires. This car's all-wheel drive system is magnificent, but it is absolutely useless when you have like summer tires on and you're trying to drive in the snow, right? Those of you who live in winter states, you know, those of you who live in cold climate states with real winter weather, you know, you guys understand this, but people in California don't. So like they'll try to drive to Mammoth in their, even in their SUV, but it has summer tires, and wondering why they're getting stuck going up the hill. So really, get winter tires for this car. You will freaking love it. It'll do like 95% of the job. It might even do 100% of the job depending on the tire you get, but it is a phenomenal car in the snow. But you need to have winter tires. You might want to check, you know, with your local Porsche dealership or a race shop like Raceworks to see, you know, would it be an 18-inch winter tire that fits, or a 19-inch winter tire? But dude, then you can make all your snow trips, and guess what? Once March comes and the snow melts and you no longer need it, put on those summer tires and you're going to get the best of both worlds in that car. This car in that respect is, like I said, it wears many hats. And when you put winter tires, you can enjoy the cold weather without the fear of like, oh crap, like what am I gonna do if I had a 4-door super sedan and I can't, you can't put winter tires on those cars, unfortunately, or snow tires in some cases, right? So for those of you in those snowy states or in snowy parts in other parts of the world, get a separate set of snow tires, winter tires for the car. You will thank me. Overall, I like this car a lot. I probably would give it anywhere from an 8.59 out of 10. I love the feel, I love the comfort, I love the way it drives. I've been loving the engine more that I've been driving it, and I think it's a great car to have in your lineup. And I think it's a magnificent car to have if you want a car that can check off multiple boxes in terms of speed, performance, handling, braking, comfort, size. It does it all. So and those of you who are curious about Macan T's and Macan S's, I think those are great too. The Macan S now is technically the previous GTS. Macan T, my only issue with that car is going to be lack of power, but otherwise phenomenal. But the GTS, 8.59 out of 10, phenomenal. If you can get one, go get one. You will thank me later. We hope you enjoyed that episode. Have a wonderful day, everyone.